there such thing as a good vampire book? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chloe and this is my channel where I talk about books. It has been a minute since I have posted a video. February was just really hectic. I think like a helpful realization for me that if I'm not posting all the time, it's okay. I don't want this to feel like a burden. I want it to be fun. So I don't know, I'm just letting you know that that's kind of why I was gone, and I'm back specifically today to talk about the books that I read in the month of February. So I read 10 books in the month of February. 5 of those were within the realm of like a 4-star, some of them 4.5-star rating, and 5 in the realm of a 3-star and 3.5-star rating. And my average rating for the month of February was 3.8. February was Black History Month in Canada and in other countries in the world. I did want to read exclusively books by Black authors in the month of February. Obviously, I want to be reading books by Black authors all year round, but specifically in February, all of the books I read were by Black authors. And to that end, definitely check out Own Voices reviews, so reviews that are by Black booktubers or Black reviewers. I will leave a link in the description to this video that has a playlist of Black booktubers. So the first book that I will talk about is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This is a new release. I believe it came out in February, and I did actually get an arc of that from NetGalley, but I only got it like not that long before it came out. So I did read it, I think, right before the date, but I didn't get a chance to post this video before it actually came out. But all of this to say, this is a new release. I know it's been on a lot of people's radar and a lot of people have been picking it up, and I think for good reason. So Honey Girl is about our main character named Grace, and Grace is a recent PhD student. So she just finished her PhD in astronomy. I really wanted to say astrology, but it is astronomy. She's in her late 20s and is just feeling a little bit lost. The book starts with her having woken up in a hotel room in Vegas. She went with a couple friends on a graduation trip to Las Vegas, and she wakes up and realizes that she has a ring on her finger and got married the night before in Vegas to another woman who has left her a note and her contact information but has disappeared. And the book is really kind of Grace navigating just having finished her PhD in the job market and kind of being confronted with just how racist, sexist, homophobic these different institutions are, definitely struggling a lot with mental health. And basically Grace packs up and goes to visit the woman that she married in New York City for a couple months in kind of this pathway towards finding herself, learning more about Grace and about Grace's relationships with her friends. She has amazing relationships with her friends that are depicted through this book, with the woman that she has married, with her family, and sort of just the representation of being a Black queer woman in your late 20s. And I think that is one of the things that hit the hardest about this book for me, is that it's an age group and like a time in your life that you don't really see reflected in books a lot. Awesome, and sort of helping carve out that like new adult genre. It's just a really beautiful book. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Next book on this list is Ties That Tether by Jane Igharo. This is a contemporary romance novel about a woman named Azeri who moved to Canada with her family from Nigeria when she was young. And before she moved to Canada, her dad passed away in Nigeria, and she promised to him on his deathbed that she would marry a Nigerian man. And years later, she is in Canada. Her mother continues to set her up on these like horrible blind dates with Nigerian men, and she's really frustrated by it, has a one-night stand with a not Nigerian, white Spanish man, and then he ends up starting to work at her place of work, and they develop feelings for one another, and things just kind of go off from there. This book was fun, and I got through it really quickly. As a romance, it wasn't my favorite for a couple reasons. One, because there was a lot going on. There was a lot that was kind of being thrown in the character's way in terms of conflict. So you had this cultural aspect in Azeri's family really not being in favor of her dating a man who wasn't Nigerian. You have the fact that they work together and all of that like workplace conflict. He has all of this like backstory trauma that you like kind of get, but like it's kind of just slipped in there. And then she has an ex-boyfriend. Like there's just a lot going on, and it felt a little bit too complicated at some points. And the thing that I think maybe didn't work for me the most, and this won't hold true for everybody, and this is kind of a spoiler, so, but not really a spoiler at the same time, but a big kind of plot point in this book is that Azeri becomes pregnant from their one-night stand. Pregnancy as a key piece of a romance, and like pregnancy as being something that is supposed to make you fall more for the characters, just doesn't do it for me. Like, nothing against pregnancy in books, but it's not something where I'm like, oh, like she's gonna have a baby, it's so cute, like they're so in love. Like, that's just not how my brain works. It was just kind of like another thing that the author kind of threw in the mix. I did think that like the kind of exploration of culture and her family and her mother specifically being so worried about her like losing her Nigerian culture by being in a relationship with someone who wasn't Nigerian. I thought that all of that was really, really interesting. But yeah, the romance piece didn't really do it for me. I would definitely read other things that this author wrote, because again, I thought that it was fun. I gave it 3 stars. Next up, I read A Princess in Theory, which is the first book in the Reluctant Royals series by Alyssa Cole. When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole was one of my favorite books that I read in 2020. I had not read any of her romance books, which is really what she's known for. And then I did read a novella in the Reluctant Royals series. I read Once Ghosted, Twice Shy in December, I think, and I really enjoyed this. May as well give the whole series a try. A Princess in Theory is, let me try to get this straight, is about a woman named Naledi who grew up in like the foster care system. Her parents died when she was really young, and she's now, I think that she's actually also a PhD student, doesn't have a family, doesn't have a ton of friends, and is being contacted by email saying that she is a princess of this fictional African country, and saying that she is betrothed to the prince of that country. And she's like, this is bullshit, obviously, but these emails are actually real. And the prince comes to New York City and like doesn't tell her that he's a prince, but then kind of starts falling for her, and then they develop this like relationship in the course of a week. Finally, she finds out that he's actually a prince, and then she goes back to the country with him. Like, I'm not describing this well, but just to say that a lot happens, and that might be part of why I didn't love this book, is that again, there's a lot going on. I thought it was really fun, and like the tension between these two characters. I love that a lady had this like very well fleshed out backstory, and that she was a scientist and she was a big nerd, and like she was just really lovable. But then there was just like a lot that happened, and just when I kind of felt like the book was maybe wrapping up, like a whole other thing started. Like the pacing was a little bit strange, and I didn't love Fabiola, who was the prince. He was kind of a jerk. But I think just like the concept of this like woman who doesn't know that she's betrothed to a prince in this like fictional African country, which is also like kind of a utopia, which I thought was really fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up, I read Felix Ever After by Kacen, Callender, a book which needs, I think, very little introduction on BookTube. I was really late to the game reading this. Finally did this month, and I'm glad that I did. Felix Ever After is about our main character, Felix, who is a high school student, kind of consistently feels like he is too black, too queer, too trans to fall in love with someone. So he's never been in love. The book kind of kicks off. Somebody posts photos of him before he came out as trans, and as well as his dead name, in a very public space in his school. He decides that he is going to find out who did it, and I'm gonna get back at them. And then so starts this kind of like revenge plot, which I'm kind of about, to be honest, at the same time as he's kind of struggling with the fact that he's never been in love and like wants to find somebody to be in love with. There's just so much great representation in this book at the discussions of gender and trans issues in particular, and of sexuality, and just like identity and self-love and all of those beautiful things. The relationship between Felix and his best friend Ezra, I think, is just like adorable. I think for a YA as well, one of the things that I loved about this is that I thought this was a little bit more realistic compared to other YA books that I've read that I think kind of present a little bit of a sanitized version of high school. And this is a high school where the kids smoke weed and they drink and they go to parties and they swear, and like it's just a little bit messier, and I'm about that. Like, I really appreciated that it was a little bit of a messier YA representation. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really liked it. Next up is Lakewood by Megan Giddings. This was a really, really highly anticipated book for me, and this is about our main character, Lena. Her grandma has recently passed away, I believe from cancer, and her mom is chronically ill, and they just don't have a lot of money. They're really, really struggling to pay bills. Lena is a university student, and she gets a letter in the mail one day inviting her to be part of an experiment where she will move to a town called Lakewood and isn't allowed to tell anybody about anything in this experiment, but they will pay her a lot of money to be part of it. And because she is so desperate, she decides to go and be part of this experiment in Lakewood, and really, really strange, really messed up things start happening. The commentary on this book around medical and scientific racism and sort of the history of scientific experiments and like pain and torture inflicted on bodies of color by the state, I think is like, it's really hard hitting, and it's a really, really good read, and does definitely kind of give you those like Get Out, Jordan Peele, when no one is watching vibes. I didn't like the ending. I really didn't like the ending. I was just underwhelmed a little bit, and I had a lot of questions that weren't answered, and it felt like it just wrapped up really, really quickly for so much build up throughout the book. This one kind of depends on like how much stock you put in endings, because I did think it was a really good book, and up until the ending, like, this could have really easily been a 5-star read for me. The build up throughout the book, I just didn't really quite get the payoff from the ending, and that made me sad. That like social commentary horror intersection, if you like that, I would still recommend reading it, to be honest. Okay, next I read Fledgling by Octavia Butler, and background, I read Kindred in January and loved Kindred, like gave it 5 stars. It was the first book that I read in 2021, and I was like, damn, what a good start. It was my first Octavia Butler book, and so I was like, well, I should try to read another book by Octavia Butler in February. This is a weird book. This was a really weird book. Fledgling is a vampire book. Mainstream vampire culture, like if you're thinking of like True Blood and Twilight and Vampire Diaries, like these are such like white franchises. So I thought it was really cool to read Fledgling, which is a book about a vampire who is a black girl, black woman, who wakes up with no memory of anything that happened before she woke up. She wakes up in a cave and basically begins to realize that her entire vampire family has been killed, and she's trying to figure out who did it while also trying to kind of relearn how to be a vampire. So I did think it was really cool, like the way, you know, as one would I think expect from an Octavia Butler book, the way that this book explores like race and gender in kind of this like science fiction-y fantasy sort of way. Shori, who is our main vampire, she is sort of part of like genetic vampire experiments. She has like these special abilities as a vampire as a result of her darker skin, where she can like stay awake all like during the day when all the other vampires have to sleep, and like she's able to be in the sun and it doesn't bother her skin as much. So like she has all of these advantages as a vampire as a result of her skin color, but then some in the vampire community think that she's like not a real vampire because she's like a result of these experiments. So like there's just some like there's some cool stuff in there. But all of this aside, it is a vampire book, and all of the weird stuff that you expect to come with a vampire book, Octavia Butler seemingly was not immune to that. The thing that like is probably consistently the weirdest about this book is that Shori is supposed to be like a 60-year-old vampire, but she's in the body of an 11-year-old girl, and she finds these like human symbionts, like the people who she takes blood from, but she's having these like sexual relationships with like people in adult bodies, and they're human, so they're technically younger than her, but she's in the body of a child, and there's like commentary on that throughout the book, which is just like, it's really creepy to read. Is there such thing as a good vampire book? And if Octavia Butler couldn't create an incredible vampire book, I don't know if anybody could. And again, I'm saying this, I did think it was fun, I did enjoy it, but it was just like strange, and it was a vampire book. I think that there's just like a cap on how good vampire books can be. The ending felt a little bit underwhelming to me again. I will still continue probably to read vampire books because I'm still kind of trash for them. I gave it 3.5 stars. I do still think it's like a good read if you're kind of willing to look past kind of like some weird sexual vampire age gap creepiness. I'll leave you with that. Next up is Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn. Patsy is about a woman named Patsy who is a Jamaican woman who has this very idealized vision of what life in America looks like, coupled with the fact that the woman that she was in love with when they were teenagers has moved to and now lives in New York City. So Patsy basically kind of gives up everything, spends all of her money on a visa to go to the States. She leaves her daughter behind, she leaves her family behind, she leaves her job behind, and goes to New York City expecting that she will be able to kind of be in a relationship with this woman that she is in love with and just like live this great like American dream style life, and gets there, and that is not the reality. We're basically following kind of between Patsy and her new life in New York City and her daughter back home in Jamaica as she grows up without a mother and not having really any contact with her mother either. I was not prepared for how heavy, how emotional this book was going to be. It touches on a lot of themes that I think I don't get out of a lot of the other books that I read. That kind of immigration piece and sort of this perception of moving to like a wealthy, quote unquote, developed country, and the idea that it's going to be this like perfect life, and sort of how countries in North America or Europe or elsewhere treat immigrants and people that don't have status in that country. The exploration of motherhood, for instance, when you have Patsy, who both in Jamaica and in the US has these expectations placed on her of like how she should feel about being a mother, whereas in reality she doesn't really have the relationship with her daughter that I think society expects her to have. There's just a lot of like meat to this book. The writing is beautiful, the story is beautiful, the characters are really complex. It started quite slow for me. It took me a while to get into it, but once I was into it, I was hooked. I gave it 4.5 stars. 8th on this list is Such a Fun Age by Reid, another one that made its rounds on BookTube. Such a Fun Age follows Amira, who is a 20-something Black woman who babysits for a white family, and she takes this family's daughter to the grocery store one night and is accused at the grocery store of trying to kidnap this white child. And you watch this sort of tension between Amira, who's the babysitter, and Alex, who is the mother of the family that she's babysitting for, and Alex like so desperately wanting to prove to Amira and to everyone around her that she is like this woke ally, great white person. I've seen people who are like, this book sucked. I've seen people who have been like, this is my favorite book of all time. I did really enjoy it. I found the writing was actually quite gripping, and I found it really, really fast to get through. The exploration of like these characters' psyches and, you know, kind of following Amira and her friend group and Alex and her friend group, and then you have their lives kind of beyond that babysitter family dynamic, their lives kind of come clashing towards one another in another really unexpected way. The way that this book explores performative allyship and the way that white people think about race is both like gross but very accurate, and I did really, really like it. So I gave it 4 stars. 9th book is Real Life by Brandon Taylor, which is another one that I was highly, highly anticipating. I know I've seen so many people read it and love it. Real Life follows Wallace, who is a PhD student in biology, I want to say, something that I didn't really understand, at a university in a Midwestern city, and the book basically follows him over the course of a weekend, you know, in real life, where he is sort of in a lab at school sometimes, struggling with like, should he be in academia? Should he not be in academia? The people in his lab suck and they're racist. And then also kind of his friend group, who is, I think, primarily or exclusively white, and like not really feeling like he fits in with his friend group, and kind of having this very unexpected relationship with one of the other men in his friend group who doesn't want other people to know about it because he is insistent that he is straight. The writing is beautiful. I think it explores a lot of really important themes. Did I enjoy reading it? No, not really. It's sad. It's sad. It's a hard read. I did kind of enjoy like the themes of being in school and like struggling with student like your identity as a student, your identity with being somebody in grad school, and like that feeling like it's kind of the main part of your life. Like that's something that Wallace and a lot of his friends are kind of like grapple with throughout the course of the book. Books that are just like a realistic depiction of somebody's everyday messy life are not my favorite. Like I appreciate it for what it is, and I get why some people love this book. It reminded me a lot of Luster by Raven Leilani, and I think that if you love one, you are likely to love the other. So I gave it 3.5 stars. And the final book on this list is Another Brooklyn by Jacqueline Woodson, which is, look how pretty this cover is. This is a novella, and it is the first book that I read by Jacqueline Woodson. I won't give too much in terms of a synopsis of this, other than to say that it is a book about Black girlhood and friendship between Black girls, and follows 4 girls growing up in Brooklyn, kind of the beauty of that friendship and also the struggles and challenges that came along with it. Jacqueline Woodson's writing is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's really, really poetically written. I have not yet found a novella that I have adored, because I think, not that I love super long books, but I do feel like I usually want a little bit more. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. There we have it, my first video in a month. Hopefully I will be back on here a little bit more regularly, but in the meantime, let me know in the comments what your favorite book that you read in February was. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thank you for your patience as I like sort my life out and fail to post on YouTube regularly. But yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.